I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
Here we are then, ladies and gentlemen. It's round number 9 for the Formula SimRacing Academy Championship. We travel to Stavelot, Belgium, and that's right, the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps will play host to today's race. A fast, twisty and historic circuit will bring some monumental racing. The long camel straight, the heartbreaking of the Les Combes chicane, and who can forget the infamous Eau Rouge Radion complex. I certainly can't wait to see our Academy drivers battle it out, edging one step closer to that championship. Again, a massive thank you to the amazing people over at 3D Rap, SimLab and City eSports for bringing you all the action for today's racing. And of course, don't forget, this is the first of 2 races this afternoon. Pro Series will be on right after, so don't go anywhere. Nonetheless, right now is what is important. I am Zach Sweeney, joined alongside Felix van Delft as always. And Felix, what a race we have in store today.
Yeah, Spa-Francorchamps is, for me at least, one of my favorite tracks to watch and also to drive on. I think it's the combination between high-speed long straights, but also the technical, slower medium-speed corners, the twitchy bits, that makes this track really, really nice to drive and also to watch. I think we're going to have some nice battles. Some overtakes will definitely be possible with the slipstream down the Camel Straight. So that's something to watch out for in the race. Of course, first we're going to head into the qualifying session. Drivers will have 3 hot laps available to them to set their fastest lap time here around this Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And who's going to be the quickest today? Damien Scarron, of course, leading the championship still. He's been shown to be very quick throughout this entire season since he's joined the Academy series from the AMA series. But can he keep up that pace? Last time around in Le Mans, he had a bit of struggles. Also got a penalty in the end after the race. So today, let's see what he will be able to do. And I think it's time for us to jump into that qualifying session immediately as well, as the drivers are heading out onto the track already.
So, of course, 3 hot laps here in Spa. It's a very long circuit, so there's a lot of opportunities for you to make up that time. But as you said, Damien Scarron looking to get back onto that winning form that we've seen him on all season long at the moment. It is Bergen who starts his first flying lap, coming into La Source, looking for that 100 board. Brake as much in a straight line as you can. Really aim yourself for that apex. You want to use a little bit of camber on the inside to get the car rotated. Bit of a shaky exit though as he heads up. What a complex this is. Completely flat out if you can get it right. Up the hill, Eau Rouge and Radion. It's just a satisfying complex to get right, and then it's a long run up the Camel Straight towards the Les Combes chicane. It's a very hard braking zone, but you're not on the brakes for very long. You can carry a lot of speed through here, looking for the start of that curve, down to around about 3rd gear, roll it through, hit the 1st and 2nd apex, and then bring it through, roll it. This is such a nice corner to get right if you can really stamp on the throttle in towards Rivage. Off cambered, so you just got to really hug the inside as much as you can, run it to the outside, no name corner, just got to chuck it in 3rd gear, use a little bit of the curb on the inside, but try not to unsettle the car. So far, pretty good hooked up lap. Coming into Pouon, just flick it to the left, down 1 gear, use the engine braking and try and carry as much speed as you can before you come in towards Campos. Brake again at the start of the curve. You can carry so much speed, hook up that inside curve and again flick it to the left. Bit shaky on the rear end, but no harm done. It's his first lap, just trying to get a banker in through Stavelot 1 towards Stavelot 2. So far a pretty hooked up time. 29.3 to the first sector, 45.1 to the middle sector, and the final sector is pretty much a straight line as you come towards 2 very fast corners, completely flat out through Blanchimont, and then up towards the final chicane. Looking again around about the 100 board, braking a straight line, 2nd gear, maybe 1st gear if you want to get the car rotated, but he keeps it in 2nd, a little bit wide on the exit, but not a bad first lap.
Yeah, let's see where it puts him. Right around 6th position, not as good a lap as Damien Scarron has already been able to do. Harry Smith, of course, one of the main rivals of Scarron throughout this season, has his ups and downs today. Fastest sector in Sector 2. So let's see what he can do in that final sector. Hard over those curbs, bouncing around. A bit of oversteer on the exit there of bus stop chicane. And now across the line for Harry Smith. It is going to be second place for now. About just under 4 tenths of the fastest time that Damien Scaron has already set. So Scaron so far, best of everybody.
Yeah, and not by any small margin as well. 4 attempts, he's really smashed it out of the park. Of course, Spa, it's a long circuit, so you can really gain that time quite easily if you can just hook up a couple of corners. So it's not like it's 4 attempts around somewhere like the Red Bull Ring where it's harder to make up that time. But yeah, interesting that he's already back and trying to smash it out of the park. We've got Palasek now across the line. Where can he put himself for his first flyer lap? And it's only P12, 1.4 seconds, but it's a close grid.
Definitely is, and that's going to be interesting in the race as well. Like I said, that slipstream down Camel Straight, especially in the first couple of laps when the cars are very close to each other still. I think that's going to be interesting. I'm not sure if Scaron starts from pole position and he gets he is the first that gets out of La Source on the first lap. I'm not sure if he will be first coming into Les Combes because of that very long straight coming up to Les Combes. Now though, Scaron setting himself up to start his second hot lap of the day, like we mentioned. 3 hot laps for all the drivers. That means a total of 9 laps that they're allowed to do. Basically 3 sets of in-lap, hot lap, out-lap, hot lap, and in-lap. On the in-lap they can just escape though, so they don't have to do the full in-lap. Scaron though, he is starting his flying lap.
Here he goes then, on board with the Master. Qualifying maestro, it must be said. And in the race, he's not too bad. Let's see how he breaks in towards turn 1. Just after the 100 board actually goes in a little bit too deep, though. That's really going to affect his exit. You need to maximize the exit because you're flat out from here all the way down to when you break for Les Combes. So, yeah, not the best of ways to start the sector, but hooks up Eau Rouge and Radion very nicely onto the kink with down the Camel Straight. Let's see what he can do. Is he going to be up on his first sector time? And if he is, well, he's got 2 sectors to improve upon it. He's now approaching the sector line as he breaks for Les Combes, and it is white, so he's not improved.
Yeah, probably that first corner just hurt him quite a lot. There's still some time to gain, of course, in the second and the third sector. We saw somebody else already had, I think that was Harry Smith, did a purple sector 2 in his first lap. So maybe Damien can find a bit of time through here as well. Looked all good through those corners, downhill, down Pouhon. Such a fast left-hander. You have to really commit to that also in the race. That's going to be quite difficult for the front right tire, I assume. Now the right-left chicane. Have to get through that nicely. If you just make a mistake in one of those corners, you set yourself up in a bad position for the next corners as well. The white sector for Scaron as well in the second sector, so I think this is not going to be, and Scaron already abandoned the lap indeed.
Yeah, not the best way to do the second lap, so it's all pressure on for his final flyer. We got Cosmo Prosciutto on a pretty good lap, green to the first sector, and now approaching the second time in line. What's it going to be? It's purple to the middle sector. He's on a pretty good time here, 4 tenths off pole as it stands. Adam Rainey is now up on to the front row, only 1 tenth off Damien Scaron, so they are getting close, and it's all pressure on Scaron. He needs to deliver on his final lap, but as Cosmo Prosciutto rounds Bonchimon and up towards the bus stop chicane, what can he do? It's going to be interesting. Green first sector, purple middle sector. Hooks up the bus stop chicane pretty well. Needs to get a decent exit. Shortest run to the line. Bit shaky, but where's it going to put him? And it is going to be P3, 1 tenth off pole. So it's incredibly close in the top 3.
It definitely is. Great to see Adam Rainey up there as well. He's been doing better and better throughout this season and showing that he's got some pace now. And already on the front row at the moment. Let's see if he can keep that throughout the rest of this qualifying session. 1 lap to go for most of these drivers. Kevin Morville doesn't improve his lap time, so he'll go back to the garage and start over. Everybody now basically out on an out lap. I think it is Scaron that is going to be the first one to start his final flying lap. Of course, this track is quite long, so the out lap as well takes quite a bit of time, so everybody has to hurry up a little bit. Everybody that was able to do 2 full laps so far doesn't have much time to get a breather and calm down after their lap. They have to get out onto the out lap straight on and prepare for their next hot lap. as the clock is ticking down to just 1 minute remaining now. When that timer hits 0, if you haven't started your lap yet, you're done with your qualifying session. Of course, everybody that had started a lap already is allowed to finish that lap.
Yeah, well, on board at the moment, Adam Rainey on his outlap for his final run. Of course, recently moved to Netrex GP, and what a way to announce his new team if he can get pole position here in Spa. What a track to do it at as well, setting up his lap 1/10 off. Checker flag will be out soon, so this is the final stage of qualifying. Who's going to get pole? It could be, I'd say, any one of the top 4, Harry Smith, Prosciutto, Rainey or Scouron. Scouron, of course, wants to return to winning form. Rainey wants to make a statement here at his new team. Prosciutto and Harry just want to get themselves in the mix. Both incredible qualifiers, and that's been proven throughout the season. But who is it going to get pole? Damien Scouron, purple to the first sector, though.
Yeah, great sector from Scouron as well. Let's see what Rainey is able to do coming down the Camel Straight now. It's a long straight. A lot of time to think about where you're going to brake. Does it on the curve there. Not a personal improvement, about 1.5 tenths off what Scouron just did in that first sector. So Scouron looking great for pole position at the moment. Harry Smith improved on his personal best first sector, so he might be able to find something. We saw that he's quite quick in that second sector. Of course, setup can be important in a track like Spa-Francorchamps because it's so long and so versatile. Now, Scouron, not an improvement in the second sector. Might have made a mistake there. Let's see what Rainey is able to do. Looks good so far through this second sector. Ooh, as I said, though, big squiggle on the rear end of the car. That's going to lose him a bit of time. Second sector marker right here is still an improvement. So if he can get a good final sector, might be able to challenge Scouron for their pole position. Scouron is about to finish the line. He will do a 1:42.211. Didn't improve on his lap.
Yeah, that could be costly, especially now as Adam Rainey puts in a decent middle sector. And of course, don't forget Prosciutto and Smith could be looking good. What can Rainey do as he now crosses the line? What's it going to be? Is it an improvement? Doesn't look like it is. 0.5 tenth off pole, but that could secure him for the front row. Who knows? We got Prosciutto now across the line as well with Harry Smith. Couldn't improve. That's all eyes on Prosciutto. 2 white sectors, though. It's not looking too likely. And Jeremy Ariosa, Cosmo Prosciutto now across the line. What can he do? Unless he's smashed that final sector, it doesn't look likely. And I don't think he did. No, so Scouron just nips that.
Yeah. Very close indeed with Adam Rainey. You saw him being a bit disappointed, perhaps, or a bit happy that he's still on the front row. I think he can be happy with that. He's definitely shown that he's got the pace here today, and he'll be challenging for that win for sure if he can get a good first stint going and challenge Scouron for that for the win. Of course, it's a pretty long track, pretty long race overall. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens in the race. Let's have a look at the full qualifying results though.
So it is Scouron that takes pole position. Rainey very, very close. Joins him on the front row with Cosmo Prosciutto in P3 and Harry Smith 4 tenths covering the top 4. Extremely close. We've got Luke Shack in P5 with Agapov in P6. Dmitry Zarahov rounds off in P7 with Nitso in P8. Thomas Andriami Ariosa in P9 with Yana Kone rounding off the top 10. 1 second, in fact, covering the top 10. So it was an incredibly close qualifying, Felix.
It definitely was. Moving on from the top 10. 11th, Yelitalo. 12th, Morville. 13th, Petr Palacek. 14th, Gerard Batala. Devo Branson down in 15th. Massimiliano Riboli in 16th. Max Haas. 17th, Patrick Rusinak in 18th. Jurgen van Bergen in 19th. And then Andrei Marakchak in 20th position without a lap time. So this qualifying grid looking close, just over 2 seconds separating the entire grid. But the top 10 indeed, like you say, 1 second apart on a track like Spa-Francorchamps. That's great to see, and let's hopefully also see that going through to the race, have a nice some nice battles in the race, and especially if that could be for the win, that will be very nice to see indeed. Just waiting now for the session to switch to the race session. Unfortunately, we don't have a Michi lap for you guys today. but for the World Championship next week, because that has been moved due to the Euro 2020 finals, for the World Championship we'll for sure have the Mitchell back, of course. Now let's have a look at the standings, because those are a bit interesting as well. Still, of course, Skyron is still leading that championship by quite a bit margin, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, what is that? 14 points ahead of Prosciutto. So he's got a comfortable margin. Of course, round 9, 10, 11 and 12 still to go. So still a long way. And, well, Harry Smith, he's an outside shot, isn't he? Frank Hammond as well is showing his nose. But I'd say the two main protagonists are Prosciutto and Skyron. But Skyron, he's going to want to maybe extend that buffer as much as he can into the final 3 rounds. And Prosciutto, he's starting, P3, 2 places down. All he can do right now is outscore Skyron for the last 4 rounds.
Yeah, that's what he needs to do, and he's gonna have to start with that today. Starting from that 3rd position is going to be a challenge, but definitely not impossible. Good strategy is important on a track like this. Of course, the drivers have to use the soft and the hard compound at least once during the race. They can start on whichever tire they would like, so gonna have to wait and see who starts on which tire. I'm not entirely sure how much each tire will be able to do, but I'm pretty sure we'll see at least 1 stop, maybe 2. We're gonna have to wait and see which driver decides to do what, or which team decides to do what. That's always, of course, interesting to wait and see how that turns out in a race. We've seen Skyron sometimes lacking a bit of that strategic mind and missing out because of that. So let's see how he fares with that today.
Yeah, I mean, especially around Spa, because it's such a long lap. You can't afford to be staying out, 1 or 2 laps extra or whatever it might be, because you lose so much more time. Once your tyres go off the cliff, that time loss is going to be so exaggerated over a place, again, like a shorter track. I use Red Bull Ring as an example. So Spa, you need to nail it. And of course, fuel is going to be a big factor, because you can't limp it round on 0.8 laps of fuel, because it's such a long lap. So it's going to be very hard and very interesting. Of course, long lap, very long corners. The tires are going to be taking a big hit. So yeah, strategy more than anything today, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're getting ready to start this race. Drivers will be gridding up in just a second. So when they do, we'll also head on and show the entire grid. So Skyron starting from that pole position together with Adam Rainey, Cosmo Prosciutto in 3rd place, Harry Smith 4th. Those are the drivers to look out for the championship. Grecek Lukchak in 5th, Peter Vagapov in 6th. 7th is Dimitri Zarov, great qualifying for him as well. Kacper Nitso in 8th. Then 9th, Thomas Andrea Miasoa. And 10th, Armano Iannacone. 11th, Tommy Yelitalo. And 12th, Kevin Morville. 13th place, we've got Petr Palacek and Gerard Batala for Royal Blue Racing in 14th. 15th is Dave Brantham. And in 16th, we've got Massimiliano Ribioli. Max Huss, 17th. Patrick Ruzinok in 18th. 19th, we've got Jurgen van Bergen. And Andrei Marachak will be starting from last place here today. And let's see how these drivers fare in the warm-up lap. I think everybody will be warming up their brakes, warming up their tires to make sure that they are all set for the start of this race.
Yeah, and interesting that a pretty mixed strategy in the top 4. The ones that we regard as probably the best ones to go for that win. Of course, you got Damien Scarron on the softs, Rainey going for the hards alongside Harry Smith. So it's 50-50 when it comes to the strategy inside the top 4. But the majority of the grid, actually, in fact, I say that, is very split between the softs and hards. So this is going to be an incredibly interesting one as the race unfolds. But those people on the hard tires, this formation lap is so crucial, because the harder rubber, of course, of the hard compound tire, it's going to mean that it's going to be harder to warm up. So they don't want to be sat on the grid for too long, and they need to maximize getting those tires warmed up, because it's a short run to turn 1 and they don't want to get swallowed up.
Yeah, definitely. Adam Rainey, Harry Smith, both on the hard tires in that top 5 I think those are definitely going to be the ones to keep an eye out on. In the first couple of laps, probably will be starting to drop back a little bit because that soft tires, especially in the first few laps, just have that grip advantage. At some point, the crossover point will happen and the hards will gain some more pace compared to the softs. But when that is going to be and how that will translate into pace throughout the race, we're gonna have to wait and see. Drivers slotting into their grid slots, warming up their tires for the last time, doing a bit of a burnout, getting all ready to get this race going.
And what a race is in store for us. Just waiting for the tail end of the grid to join us, coming off the bus stop. Chicane, Scouron on pole position. You can see Rainey lined up super aggressively, lined up to the inside there, ready to go and wants to cover off his position. But I'm going to guess he just wants to hold off for a second and then try and get Scouron in the tow. But it's not long now until we get underway for round number 9 here in Spa. Just waiting for the 5 red lights. Scouron needs to try and extend to his championship lead ahead of Prosciutto. Prosciutto needs to just stay with him, try and get in front. But here we go. We get ready. 5 red lights soon to illuminate your screen, and we are underway and racing. It's a pretty good start from pole sitter, but Adam Rainey has been absolutely swallowed up there because a great start from Prosciutto sees him on the inside. That is Rainey on the outside trying to fight it. Someone's off the track. There's a big load of carnage towards the backside, but Adam Rainey down to 3rd place as they hurdle up the hill, up Eau Rouge and Rally on. The tow is going to be a massive, massive factor. Can Prosciutto go from 3rd to 1st? In a couple of corners, he's tucked up right in the slipstream. He's going to try and go for it. Scouron knows he's going to go for it. He's defensive to the right-hand side. Scouron defensive. Prosciutto pulls out to the left. Can he go around the outside? Not quite. He's just going to miss out on this one. But that was such an important defensive maneuver for Scouron to do.
It definitely was. So Adam Rainey having a bit of struggles in that first corner. Lost that position to Prosciutto early on, but if he can stay with him throughout this first stint, that is already a great achievement for him on those hard tires, I think. But it's going to be difficult. Scouron already starting to pull out the gap. Prosciutto trying to stick with him. But you can see in that dirty air, especially with those hard tires, Rainey starting to struggle with the grip.
Yeah, it's certainly less than ideal. He needs to just settle into a rhythm. Of course, he's got Luchak and Nizio right behind him, breathing down his neck. But what a start from Nizio, it must be said. He's and Harry Smith as well, been absolutely swallowed up on these hard tires, and that's just that's the price you pay. But Adam Rainey and everyone on the hard tires really needs to settle in quickly and get into the rhythm. And if they lose a couple of places, so be it. But they do not want to be hurting their races, fighting it too hard. But a good start from Nizio. And he's eyeing up Rainey, getting himself onto that podium. He's got a ton of overspeed coming toward bus stop. Pulls to the inside. I don't think Rainey is going to fight this one too hardly. Big lockup goes way off the track. And Rainey's going to just say thank you very much. Retake that position as Nizio has to back off, concede that position. But pushing a bit too hard maybe.
Yeah, you saw that top speed difference between the Netrex and the ground effect SimRacing car was quite significant. Not sure if that was just down to Rainey being a bit conservative or just the wing settings of these cars being quite a bit different. Already here you can see Nizio gaining such a lot of ground, and now as well around the outside he's going to be passed well before the corner even starts, and that's a position for Nizio coming into Lecom. And Rainey starting to drop back already. Wasn't much due to the hard tires, I would say, just a lot less top speed than some of the other cars here on track.
Yeah, it's interesting, but just goes to show how big of a factor slipstream and top speed in general will play, because it's a fine line. You need both around Spa. You need the downforce for this section right here, such as Pool 1. You need to be committed, but you can't sacrifice the straight line speed because you just get swallowed up, as we've seen Rainey do here. We've got a nice little battle coming in for P8 between Kevin Morville and Andrea Ariosa. And of course Thomas on the softs, Morville on the hards, and it's such a big difference so far early on. But how many DNFs on these first couple of laps can we just say?
Yeah, first lap has been a bit of carnage, I think. What's that? 6 drivers DNF already in the first stages of this race. That's unfortunate to see. But the rest of the drivers, I think, still going. Yelito probably pitted for a fresh front wing or something like that. Now though, I think Andrea Miosoa is looking to make an overtake here on Morville. No, had a bit of a peak, but he knows if he overtakes here, then he's going to give Morville a prime opportunity down the straight, the Camel Straight, of course. So what he wants to do is stay close here out of turn 1 and then set himself up for that run down the Camel Straight. Needs to get a good exit though. I think he's a little bit too far back. Let's see how that slipstream does for him though.
As he hurdles up the hill. 5/10 is the gap. He needs to get through pretty quickly though, because he cannot be dwelling behind these hard compound tyre runners. He needs to get through and use these softs while they're still fresh. He's closing, but I don't think he's closing quite enough. It's kicking off at the front side. I think Adam Rainey is under pressure from Luchak, and I think Luchak has managed to get through into P4. So the hard tyre is not really the greatest tyre to be starting on, and Thomas couldn't quite get through in the end. And Harry Smith is tumbling down the order there. I'm not sure what's happening. As he had a bit of a spin, he's in the wall coming off the Les Combes chicane, and that is a front wing missing and a ton of damage to the NetRace GP car. Just about gets out of the way of Villa, but that is not an ideal start to the race. And well, 3rd place in the championship, and he's going to be losing a lot of ground today.
Yeah, let's see what happened. Coming into Les Combes, just outbraked himself, hit that curb, and the rejoin bumped into, I don't know exactly who that was, but bumped into him and then bounced back into the barriers. And that's no front wing for him. A bit unfortunate. Let's see if we can take a look from it from the outside as well. Here coming down the Camel Straight, braking. Just outbraked himself a little bit on those hard tires. Jumped off the track. Then on the rejoin, yeah, I've got to say it's completely his own fault. On the rejoin, you have to be careful there. Not much the other driver could have done there. He was already on the edge of the track. And unfortunate for Harry Smith, he's gonna have to go into the pit lane as well. It's a very long lap to go down without a front wing as well. So this race, I think, at least his battle for the top 5 definitely is over today.
Yeah, well, he's got some good race pace, so he just needs to play the rest of this race relatively well. Scouron at 2 seconds ahead of Prosciutto already, and we're only on lap 4, so Scouron making a statement, and Prosciutto seeing his championship rival sail off into the distance. He needs to at least try and close the gap, maybe for the remainder of the race. Of course, still a long way to go, 24 laps or so left of this race remaining, as I believe Thomas is trying to get his way up into P7, but I don't think he's quite managed to do it. But yeah, it's a crucial stage in this race. Harry Smith just needs to be on a charge, and that is a shame. A thing of his own doing. We've got Riboli putting the pressure on Bergen, both of them on the hard compound tyre, so it's equal peg, and he's looking for the inside into Rivage, but that's not somewhere you typically go for a move, especially seeing as though it's very off camber and very easy to go very deep. But looking to get himself inside the top 10, of course. As I said, both on the hard tyre. So it's the first battle we've seen where it's not been a massive deficit or a massive difference in terms of tyre grip.
Yeah, these two, I think, have been going at it for a little bit as well. I think Riboli might have been involved with the incident with Harry Smith. No, I don't think so. Never mind. But yeah, great to see a little battle as well further down the field. This is, of course, for 10th position effectively. At the front, the gaps have been stretching out a little bit more. Adam Rainey trying to stay with Luchak on the soft tires in front of him, but starting to struggle on those hard tires. Said this before on the first couple of laps. Oh, and he's into the pits already. Short first stint then for Rainey on those hard tires. He'll be surely putting on a set of softs and then doing another stop later on in the race to go to the end of the race, as he is coming out of the pits right now. Let's see where he rejoins. I think he's got some free air just about. Yulitalo behind him might be getting a bit of slipstream. I think he's just slightly too far behind to really make use of that slipstream. Yeah, it's about 8/10. Won't be using much of that slipstream from that far back, but Rainey, of course, on fresh tires, will be starting to gain some ground now.
Yeah, he's on an absolute comeback. Realised those hard tyres probably weren't working the best for him, and he's decided to come in. Mix up the strategy, though. This could be interesting. What are you going to say? Maybe 2 more sets of softs to the end of the race could last? I mean, I'm not too sure, but it could work. And if Adam Rainey can come out and clear air on a second time, as he's done now, and he's able to push and really utilise that grip that he's got now, and well, he was only half a tenth off pole in qualifying. He's definitely got some pace inside that NetRace GP car. So it's going to be interesting. Of course, at the moment, P10 and a long way off Scouron, but I think it's a direct fight between the two, at least for a top 3.
Yeah, definitely is. Rainy has to push this car to the limit on these first couple of laps. Make the use of that superior grip on these tires. Jurgen van Bergen, his teammate in front now, surely won't be too difficult to get past him. Break into the bus stop chicane. You can just see, even in the braking, Adam Rainey with those fresh soft tires gaining ground. Jurgen van Bergen also was on those hard tires into the pits. So Netrex going for that short first stint strategy on those hard tires, getting rid of them as soon as possible, just because the lack of grip that they have at a track like Spa-Francorchamps really hurts you. So onto the soft tires they go, and now the only driver left on those hard tires is Kevin Morville for the time being, as he is battling with Adria Miyasoa.
That was a long time coming, wasn't it? Thomas spent way too long behind Kevin Morville than he probably should have, but he's finally through and able to utilise that soft compound tyre. Morville isn't falling back as much as other drivers, so maybe the hard tyres aren't that bad, or is Morville doing something special? Who knows? But it's interesting. Andrea Miyasoa a lot closer in the slipstream than he has been. Morville, of course, defending to the inside. Thomas pulls to the left-hand side. Surely with those soft tyres, just outbrakes him completely. Swoops around the outside. And Morville just about managing to back out of that one. Thomas goes in a little bit too deep, similar to Harry Smith, but that's probably how it should have gone. But Morville, having to settle in behind. And maybe he can stay with him. But those hard tyres sort of actually working for Morville.
Yeah, so far it's going better for him than it was for those Netrex GP drivers indeed. Let's see what he does coming in the next few laps though. Everybody at the front still going strong on their soft tires. The gaps stretching out further and further. Scaron about 3.5 seconds ahead of Pasciuto, who in his turn is about 3.2 seconds ahead of Nizio. And then Lukchuk also about 2.5 seconds behind that. So not a lot of battles at the front at the moment, but once the pit stops for these guys come in, surely that will be interesting to see how that compares to where Adam Rainey is on the track right now, because he, of course, has been on those soft tires for just over a lap now. And surely he's gained some time with that undercut as well.
Yeah, of course, being on around about 5 laps or so fresh soft tyres, and Spa is a long lap, so 5 laps is a long time. So, yeah, Rainey could be setting some really good lap times here, and of course he's cleared Yilitao and everyone behind him by quite a margin, and is gaining on Rusinak as well. So his pace definitely really, really good, and as you say, the undercut could be something to look out for, as I think we are all looking forward for the pit stop phase, because the front lot aren't doing much. They're sort of very much socially distanced at the front, especially Scaron. 4 seconds his lead over Pasciuto, really making a statement and trying to get himself back onto that winning form. And Rainey, already close up to Rusinak, around about a second since I've started talking.
Rainey indeed starting to get closer and closer, and get a good run through the through Blanchimont. Might be able to make that overtake into the bus stop. Slipstream working wonders. You can see him just getting closer and closer. Has to lift even to not run into him in Blanchimont. Now looking all around him, trying to go around the outside of the bus stop. Not sure if that's the smartest idea, because that gap always gets close through there. It's difficult to get past. Bit of bumping, bit of barging, but they get through the corner. And Adam Rainey is in front now. However, Rusinak will be getting the slipstream down the Camel Straight now. Surely that will help him a bit if he gets a good exit. Well, I think now a bit too far back with that exit to do much on Adam Rainey. However, we've seen that Rainey struggles with top speed a little bit, especially if the driver behind him has slipstream. But I think Rusinak indeed is just a little bit too far back to make full use of that slipstream, and Rainey gets that position for now.
Yeah,
go ahead.
But yeah, just saying, I wouldn't say it's wise for Rusinak, even if he did have the chance to battle him.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, totally different strategies. Not really fighting for the same position. But of course, he has every right to do so if he wants to. Right, so next target for Rainy will be Kevin Morville, about 4 seconds up the road. I'm not sure if he will catch him before they will go into the pits. But who knows? That pace on Rainy's car is looking good so far. Last few laps, let's have a look for Adam Rainy. They were, let's see if I can grab the live timing. Doesn't seem like I can, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, of course, he's been doing good lap times so far. Starting to close into Morvin now as well. Already gained about 4/10 in this last lap. Ooh, bit of a wiggle coming out of La Source. But he's doing a good job so far at the front. Still waiting for the first guy to pit up there as well. Of course, besides Adam Rainy.
Yeah, Adam Rainy, the only one to pit, and so far setting some blistering pace. Just visually, you can see how well he's cut his way through the field and now well inside the top 10. But I think it's a game of chicken at the front. Scouron is probably going to be reactive as opposed to proactive, maybe. Who knows? But he is leading the way and might have to trigger the set of pit stops. But I think when one comes in, everyone's going to come in, maybe. But yeah, I think what we're more interested in is where Adam Rainy is going to settle into all of this. Of course, he's going to be pitting a little bit after the guys in front. So they're on very split strategies. And towards the end of the race, it could be extremely, extremely interesting.
Yes, definitely. Rainy looking good through that second sector. Now once again coming up to Blanchimont. You can already see Kevin Morville closing in. Car in front is braking into the bus stop now, so visually he already knows that he's gaining a lot of time to him. Of course, Morville also still on those hard tires compared to, of course, fresher soft tires. That gap is quite significant. Lap time wise, last lap from Morville was a 45.9. Adam Rainy just did a 44.4. So he closed in by about 1.5 seconds just that lap.
Trying his best to close in 1.5 seconds. That's huge. Of course, that can be attributed to be Rainey's fresher tires, Morville's longer and older, harder tires. But still, that's an insane amount around Spa as well. It's a big chunk to be taken out of him. But Morville, he's been really making these hard tires work throughout the stint, and it has been trying his best, and he's made them work a lot better than everyone else that has started on the hard tires. So Morville definitely could be within a shout of at least a top 5, I would say, because yeah, his pace on hard tires hasn't been too bad. Only 3.6 seconds off Thomas, and to put that in perspective, you know, Prosciutto and Scouron, two very quick drivers on equal tires, are a bigger gap apart, as Scouron is into the pit lane, the race leader into the pit lane. Prosciutto stays out. Is Nizio going to stay out? But that's interesting. Scouron triggering the pit stops, and Prosciutto now, I'd say this lap is crunch time.
Yeah, it goes on to the hard compound. Let's see where he will be rejoining. Also Nizio indeed, and Vagapov. Adam Rainy, he's just passing pit lane now, so Scaron still comfortably in the lead. Rainy not really gaining a lot with that early pit stop, it seems. Of course, we're going to have to wait and see how it compares to Lukchak and Prosciutto, because those were the drivers that he was battling not so much. Scaron, at least in that first couple of laps. First, though, it's going to be Kevin Morville that Adam Rainy is going to have to get past.
Yeah, he's been eyeing him up for quite a while. Hasn't gained as much as 1.5 seconds that last lap, but still a substantial amount, and really pushing, just honing in his next target. He gets through one and then hones in the next one, but yeah, a bit disappointing that he hasn't gained as much as we thought on Scaron, but still I believe his main fight is going to be with Prosciutto and Luchak for that podium place, and we'll see. He just needs to get through on Morville and try and extend the gap, because he hasn't had many laps in clean air behind Morville. The last 2 or 3 laps or so have been affected by that dirty air, so that could really affect him long term, especially with the tyres. But Prosciutto and Luchak, it's going to be interesting to see when they decide to peel into the pit lane and where Rainey comes out in relative perspective to them. But he needs to get through Morville, preferably into the bus stop chicane, if not down towards the source.
Yeah, you can see that slipstream doing its wonders again around the outside of Blanchimol. It's not going to be easy. He backs out of it. Maybe does it in the bus stop again, as he did a few laps ago. Now backs out of it. Maybe also with the knowledge of what happened there. Of course, it turned out okay for them, but maybe the next time it doesn't. Prosciutto, Andrea Miasso, both into the pit lane. Let's see where they rejoin. Prosciutto is already out, and Rainey is just coming through La Source now. So, also compared to Prosciutto, Rainey did not gain so much ground. And he's currently still stuck behind Kevin Morville. Surely will be getting him down the Camel Straight now. Moving to the inside. I don't think Morville is going to bother defending this too much. Got past him before the braking zone. Just needs to make sure he makes the corner. Does so cleanly. And that's another position for Rainey in the top 4 now. Luchak still to pit, so it's going to be interesting to see where he comes out compared to Rainey. But Rainey about 5.5 seconds behind Prosciutto still. But that's quite a considerable gap between him and Prosciutto still.
Yeah, and we thought maybe he would come out closer to Prosciutto than perhaps than Scouron, and it was a shock. But yeah, interesting. 5 seconds, that's a big chunk of time. Could be, I guess, attributed to the fact Prosciutto had clean air for his entire stint. Rainey had to negotiate some cars, of course. He had that ding-dong in the bus stop chicane that, of course, didn't help. But yeah, certainly very interesting. But the hard tyres maybe wasn't the best to start on, at least for Netrex and everyone else, because Kevin Morville seems to be the only one that really has made those hard tyres work for them. So maybe it differs by team setup, whatever it might have been that has differed and affected the strategy. But yeah, Rainey might be wishing he might have started on the soft tyres. Luchak into the pits though, so this is going to be interesting as to see where Rainey comes through. Luchak filling up, getting some new tyres on. Rainey now passing the pit lane and coming towards turn 1. He might, I think, actually get through here.
Yeah, Luchak just starting to roll now. Morville there also into the pits. He'll be getting rid of his hard tires onto a set of softs. And Luchak just coming out of the pit lane right now. So Rainey did get quite a considerable gap to Luchak. P3 currently still for him, so that's a good position. But like we say, still about 5.5 seconds away from Prosciutto. Of course, he is on the soft tire. Those soft tires are getting quite old now, though. So compared to those fresher hards, not sure how much space difference there is between those. If you just look at the lap time that Scarwan just did, 43.7, you can think that Rainey with a 44.4 is starting to lose some pace on those soft tires. They're about 8.5 laps old now, so I'll have to wait and see when he comes in for his next pit stop. I would say in about, well, at least about 4 laps, so we can get to the end of the race on another set of soft tires.
Yeah, going to be interesting. But of course, soft tyres are going to be quick when he comes in for his next stop. He's just been put on the back foot for this entire race. He's been put onto an unorthodox strategy as opposed to Scouron and Prosciutto, which are more comfortable. They know they're ahead. They can stay on their strategy. But Rainey started on the hards and pitting early has now been forced onto a very aggressive 2-stop with 2 sets of soft tyres. So it's going to be close. I wouldn't count him out just yet, but he needs to use what little grip he's got now on these softs before he comes into the pit lane and just maintain the gap, if anything. Don't gain any time, but certainly don't lose any.
Yeah, exactly. Might still work in the end. I'm not sure compared to Scarwan, but Prosciutto might be within fighting range, but he's going to have to pick up the pace. And so far, doesn't look like he's got that pace, at least on this set of tires yet. Maybe after his next pit stop might be able to close the gap a little bit further. Prosciutto, though, starting to gain a bit more compared to Skyron. The gap was about 3.5 seconds before the pit stops. About 2.1 now. So either Skyron has made a mistake the final lap. Yes, I think he did. It was a 45.3 when he was able to do 43.7 the lap before. So must have made a mistake somewhere. Cost him about 1.5 seconds. And Prosciutto can now see him as well. So that might give him a bit more motivation to push a bit more and try and catch up to him. Skyron might be starting to crack here today.
Yeah, I mean, Prosciutto now finally starting, as you say, to put the pressure on. But and as he closes, as you can see it, that gives you that fire, that motivation to try and catch. But he needs to manage his tyres as well. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But definitely good to see that these hard tyres are working maybe a little bit better for Prosciutto than Skyron if you're a Royal Blue Racing team member. He's slowly starting to reel him in. Lost a little bit of time in Sector 3, but immediately gains quite a lot under the brakes there. Down maybe 2/10, and it is constantly changing, but he is starting to slowly reel him in. And as you say, Skyron could maybe start be feeling the pressure, because usually when he wins, he does it fairly comfortably. He hasn't really usually had to fight for his wins too hard, and he's been pretty unchallenged for the most of this race. So yeah, Prosciutto, if he can just show his nose and, you know, say to Skyron, hey, you know, I'm here, I'm not out of this race just yet, it could be something to play the mental game.
Yeah, definitely. So Prosciutto locking up quite considerably into the bus stop chicane just there. Doesn't want to do that too often. I'm sure those inside tires won't be liking that too much as well. And maybe his neighbors not as well, because flat spots in rFactor 2 are quite noticeable, I would say, through the wheel. The vibrations can get quite significant if you really have a bad flat spot. But it seems that everything's still fine for Prosciutto for now, but then have to be careful on those tires. You don't want to over push them too much, of course, so that you lose the grip too early and have to switch up your strategy because you use too much of your tires too early. But so far, still gaining a bit of time to Skyron, especially through that second sector. Now gap down to about 1.9, 1.8. Here down the straight, it's getting a bit bigger again. Skyron, I think, has a bit higher top speed, so down the first and third sector he's gaining a bit of time, and the second sector is where Prosciutto gains his time. And in the braking zones, as we saw there, braking quite a bit later than what Skyron was able to do.
Yeah, and that is going to be difficult if he can reel him in. Of course, Sector 2 is very, very strong for Prosciutto as he goes very, very sideways through La Source there. Gets the car turned just about, but it's not going to be doing his tyres any good if he keeps doing those slides. Skyron very, very evidently maybe running a lower downforce setup, but if Prosciutto does catch up, the fact he's not got the straight line speed could play a massive factor on how easy it is or how difficult it is for him to get through, because if Skyron can just park it on the apexes through Sector 2 and then zoom off into the distance through Sector 3, it's going to be very difficult for Prosciutto to really mount a challenge. So yeah, it's definitely a balancing act between speed and downforce, but so far so good. Prosciutto lost a little bit of time through that first sector, and Skyron now starting to stretch his legs maybe a little bit more. It's definitely going to be chipping away, and that's the thing. Prosciutto has been chipping away at the gap between Skyron, but any mistake and he's lost maybe 1 or 2 laps of progress just like that. So yeah, Prosciutto needs to be on it now for the rest of the race. And Rainey kept that gap around 6 seconds, so despite those soft tyres being maybe a little bit worse for wear, he's doing it pretty well. Lushak, though, gaining on Vagapov for the top 5. He has, of course, come into the pit lane fairly recently, and those soft tyres are going to be pretty quick, and he wants to get himself back into the top 5.
Yeah, Vagapov on a set of hard tyres that are about 6 laps old now, and Luchak tyres are about 3 laps old, so the soft tyres definitely still have the advantage grip-wise. Let's see how he fares in the slipstream here, about 5/10 back coming out of Stavolo. Gaining quite a bit here. Prosciutto is into the pit lane for his second stop. So short, very short. Same for Adam Rainey, by the way. Of course, he stopped early on in the first set of stops as well. Prosciutto trying to get past Vakapov, who locked up his brakes there, made a bit of a mistake coming into the bus stop, but Lukchak just waiting a bit before the first corner, then of course the run to Camel Straight. He will be getting the slipstream here. Surely if he can get a run through Arouge and up to Radion, we'll be able to make that overtake stick here.
He's definitely going to try. Doesn't want to get held up too much on those softs, but Adam Rainey did follow Prosciutto in, so they're now equal pegging, but Luchak closing, pulls to the inside. I don't think Vagapov is going to fight this one too hard, but the closing speed down the Camel Straight into Lecom gets it stopped, as we've seen so many drivers not do, and up into a provisional P3, probably around about P5 is when pit stops filter themselves out. But now it's a straight up sprint between Rainey and Prosciutto, both on the same compound tyre, both pit on the same lap, and I think it is just a race to the end. And if Rainey can maybe catch up to Prosciutto, 6.5 seconds in 10 laps, that's around about around about 0.6 of a second per lap if he can push every lap flat out and gain that time consistently.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for him, I think, but it's not impossible. Of course, also Prosciutto can make a slight mistake, and that might help him as well. Let's see. I think Prosciutto had a bit quicker pit stop as well compared to Rainey. No, it was fairly equal, so that's not where he gained or lost too much time. It's probably just on the pit entry. Scarwan is also into the pit lane now, responding to the other guys. Back onto a set of soft tires as well. You can see everybody trying to ditch those hard tires as soon as possible. Everybody basically except for Kevin Morville, who's currently in 7th place still, trying to stay with Adam Rainey now, as Scarwan is only just ahead of Lukchak there. Lukchak, of course, hasn't stopped yet for a second time, but he'll be getting the slipstream here down the Camel Straight.
Is it wise for him to fight? I mean, he's closing at a rate of knots and is going to pull to the left-hand side. Scarwan tries to defend, but the overspeed is just too much, and Luchak gets himself ahead. Maybe Scarwan trying to fight it down the inside, but those tyres might be a little bit too cold to go for a late break move. So Luchak ahead, and that is down to the slipstream, but he has to stop, and this is probably less than ideal for Scarwan. If he gets held up in the dirty air, his tyres start to go off. Prosciutto, who's only at 2.8 seconds back, could start to gain an insane amount of time and maybe challenge him if Luchak doesn't pit soon.
Yeah, indeed. I think Luchak, he did a 12 lap long first stint. He's on his 5th lap on this second set of soft tires. Still has to use the hard tires, so I'm guessing if we just continue the trend of most drivers throughout this race, we'll do a very late stop and just go for a few laps on those hard tires at the end of the race. So I don't think he's going to be stopping fairly soon. The Scarwan has to try and find a way past him.
Yeah, and he is very slippery down the straights. Looks to the inside for the bus stop chicane. Brakes as late as he can down to first gear. Gets his way through. And Luchak can't say much to that one. But he is, if he can stay close enough, going to have the slipstream again down towards the Lecom chicane and Upper Rouge. And Prosciutto is closing in. 1.4 seconds now is the gap. His teammate Luchak doing a monumental task for him as he skates across the runoff area. But in fact, he is actually on the track. 8 tenths is the gap. So yeah, Scarwan, very slippery in a straight line, has already gapped Luchak by about 8 tenths or so. But I think what's going to be important is how hard Luchak fights Prosciutto, because he's done him a massive favour. But yeah, Prosciutto needs to get through and get charging if he wants any chance.
Yeah, he definitely has to. It's closing in to Luchak already. You can see him just there in the back of the shot. And of course his sights will be set on Scarwan as well. Scarwan now has free air all the way up to his teammate Nizio, so he can push those tires as he likes. Doesn't have to get past too many drivers anymore, as there is a yellow flag in sector 2 for a second there. I think that was Jurgen van Bergen. He has had some sort of incident. Let's have a quick look.
Let's have a quick look. Another retirement add-on to the tally, coming through towards Campbell's brakes. Relatively where you would expect him to. Coming through, maybe a bit of a spin. Yeah, spins out backwards into the tyre barrier. And yeah, well, that is a rear wing gone. You do kind of need a rear wing, especially around Spa. And yeah, no rear stability whatsoever, backwards into the wall, and that's his race done and dusted.
Yeah, unfortunate to see another driver DNF there, but yeah, just lost the rear end there a little bit into the wall without the rear wing, like you say. It's pretty much undrivable, this car. Prosciutto now half a second behind Lukchak. Surely that's going to be the overtake here down the Camel Straight. First, of course, down Eau Rouge and up Radion. 4/10. Yeah, this is going to be an easy overtake for Prosciutto. You can just see him closing in so rapidly around the outside, and his teammate even lifting there for him. So that's great sportsmanship from the teammates. Lukchak not trying to fiddle too much with Prosciutto there. He knows that he's on a different strategy. Doesn't need to hold up his teammate too much. He did his job in holding up the rival, Scaron, of course. And now the gap between Prosciutto and Scaron is about 2.5-3 seconds. So it's doable for Prosciutto. He just needs to get a move on if he wants to start fighting for the lead here. About 8 laps to go.
Yeah, 3 seconds needs around about, well, if he can gain around about 5/10 a lap, that would be very, very good, and he can comfortably get in front. That is going to be a monumental task for him to do, especially seeing as though how quick Scaron has been and how consistent he's been. Prosciutto has been able to match him on some occasions during the race, but it just seems that he's not quite on it lap after lap as Scaron is, and Rainey as well, not closing in either too much, and Lukchak driving a pretty good race in P4. So I'm gonna assume, actually, well, Nizio is still yet to pit, so he could be a factor in this race and maybe a headache for Rainey. Who knows? But we've still got around about 8 laps or so left to go. There's yellow flags there, and there's a car parked. Pretty sure that might be Rusanak or Riboli. There is Nizio, as I say, is into the pit lane. So Scaron and Prosciutto both retake that P1 and P2 stance in this race. I think we're having a quick look at what happened to Rusanak. He's driving with a less than ideal looking car there. I mean, that is one wheel less than you ideally want, and without a front wing. So he's definitely had a bit of an incident somewhere, wiggling around the track. But yeah, I'm interested as to how he's lost that tire in the first place.
Already didn't have a front wing there, so I guess he had an incident. Oh yeah, here. Ooh, with his teammate as well. Ooh, on the outside, or is it his teammate? Not sure. These cars look very similar at least. Ooh, a bit of a touch there indeed, and then into the barrier. Lost the front wing there at Lecom, and then I'm guessing also lost his wheel somewhere around here. Without a front wing, of course. Grip is quite low. Ooh, into the gravel, into the barrier. There goes the wheel. Less than ideal indeed.
Yeah, it certainly does help if you can keep everything in check. And yeah, that was an interesting move into the Lake Comba. Of course, it does work if you can keep it on the outside. But yeah, not the best way to end your race, certainly, and just an extra DNF. Or actually, he is still classified in the race, just about. He's trundling along. But yeah, just another incident added on to the tally. Lukchak has actually given Prosciutto a run for his money. He's actually sort of kept with him so far after letting him through, which is certainly interesting considering he still needs to use the hard compound tire. So Lukchak definitely had some good pace today. But Nizio as well on the hard tires comes out in P6, 2 seconds back on Morville, and he is closing because Morville's tires are going to slowly start to go off. So Nizio is looking good for a top 5 here.
Yeah, indeed. Scaron, though, is lapping quicker than Prosciutto, at least the last lap. Scaron did a 43.8, Prosciutto did a 44.0, so about 2.5 tenths quicker than Prosciutto. So it's going to be difficult for Prosciutto. I think he's just going to have to keep the car going, don't make any mistakes. Make sure you get to the end of the race safely, and I think there's another driver. I think that's Riboli somewhere off the track. Yep, it's definitely somewhere off the track. He is in the barrier at Pouhon there. End of the race for him as well. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him. Let's see if we can find out.
Maybe just went straight on. I mean, we're going to have a look now, but coming through No Name, heading down the hill towards Puon. Was driving in P12. What happens then? Just go straight, and then tries to turn, and then parks it. Then
Yeah.
what is happening here? Just drives it towards the wall. So maybe a wheel disconnection or something. But yeah, just pulls it towards the wall and then keeps it there on the exit of Puon. So an interesting one to say the least.
Yeah, maybe some sort of technical issue as well. Not sure exactly what happened, but his race seems to be over. That's unfortunate for him. Still parked there on the outside of the track. Not sure what's happened to him there. I'm sure the race directors will also have a look on that. Yeah, at the front though, Pasciutto lost another half a second now in that last lap compared to Scarron. So starting to get further and further away now. Luke still has to pit. 5 laps to go in this race. That's including the current one. So surely he's going to come in somewhere in the next few laps because he still has to use those hard tires. It's going to be a very short stop for him then. Just put on tires, maybe a little splash of fuel, and then get to the end of the race.
Yeah, and I think the best he can probably hope for is around about top 6 or top 5 or so. He has driven a pretty good race, pretty quiet race, nonetheless. But yeah, double soft for his first 2 stints. Means he has to go for the hards. At least he won't have too heavy of a car to drive them on. And it's going to be interesting to see what his pace is like. Of course, we've seen Kevin Morville, the only real driver that's managed to make those hard compound tyres work. But yeah, the hards have been an interesting one today, certainly, because a lot of people haven't really been able to make them work, and I guess it is difficult around such a demanding circuit like Spa. You need that grip through places like Puon. So yeah, hard tyres have really thrown a sparrow into the works in regards to strategy today. But yeah, Luchak at the moment 3rd. When he comes out of the pit lane, probably around about 6th or 5th or so. So yeah, needs to maximise those last couple of laps on the hards.
Stays out for one more lap at least. 4 laps to go now. So Rainy in P4 will be waiting eagerly to gain back his podium position by Luchak pitting, of course. He's not going to be of much danger to Pasciutto for 2nd place, of course. Gap between those two is about 6, 7 seconds now. So Rainy has to be happy with 3rd place. Maybe not as happy as he would have been with 2nd place. Because of course, that's the position that he qualified on. But with that hard tire and the early pit stop towards the softs, didn't really work out for him. Maybe also just race pace not as quick as the 2 drivers at the front, Scarron and Pasciutto, have been able to do. But I think still a good finishing position for Rainy. Finished 3rd in last race at Le Mans as well, of course. So with his new team, NetRex, showing that he's got some pace. And maybe something for the future to watch out for. Still a few races to go, of course.
Yeah, and of course this is his 3rd team this season, or his 3rd team change. So I think maybe he's finally found somewhere where he can settle in. Of course, a podium last week and a potential podium this week as well. So yeah, he's definitely had some pace all season, and I think it's just taken this long to finally unlock it. But yeah, definitely a great race. I think the hard tyres lost him the race from the start. Of course, I think if he started on the softs and copied Scarron's strategy, he might have actually been a good challenge for him. But of course, the hard tyres, as I don't think they were really prepared for, were just not on it today at all. But yeah, Rainy looking good for 3rd as Luchak is into the pit lane. So Rainy inherits that P3. So another podium, if he can bring it home for the last 3 laps, would definitely be a good result. And I'm sure he can't complain. But I think if he started on the softs, it definitely could have been a case of what could have, should have, or would have been.
Yeah, it's always difficult to tell, of course. Something that we'll just have to think about and fantasize what would have happened. But Luchak now out of the pits. Big gap to Nitsio in front, big gap to Vakapov behind. So not much he can do on these hard tires still. Just get to the end of the race, get P5 home. Nitsio, of course, same as applying to him. And Scarron still doing a good job at the front as well. Just managing that gap. Pace between Prosciutto and Scarron has stabilized a little bit more. Basically doing the same lap times in the last couple of laps. So I think Scarron is just managing his tires in his car to the end of the race now. Don't make any mistakes, and he's got the win in the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a very weird thing to see, you know, Scarron making a mistake this late on. He's been flawless all race, but I mean, that's probably what Prosciutto is counting on. Get to the end of the race, of course, both of them want to secure that P1 and P2. Either way, it's going to be a good result, but yeah, Scarron is just in complete and utter autopilot, cruise mode. Just get to the end of the race. No risks needed whatsoever. If you push, you run the risk of spinning out, and as we've seen with a lot of DNFs today, it can happen to probably anyone. So Scarron not taking any risks, and same can be said for Prosciutto, but if either of them make a mistake, could be something thrown into the works, especially Scarron to dominate for the whole race. But yeah, Prosciutto, I think he's going to need a miracle if he wants to win this race. Of course, now onto the penultimate lap. Rainy 9 seconds back. Both of them can probably just take a breath and chill for the final 2 laps and enjoy their ride around Spa. Prosciutto just chilling, driving around on his soft tyres, just trying to bring him home. No need to push on them, don't want to lock them up, don't want to overheat them or anything of the sort. So yeah, just trying to bring it home. Luchak is gaining on Nizio, but maybe by not a substantial amount enough to catch him. Of course, only around about 1.5 laps left of what has been an interesting race. Of course, strategy has definitely thrown it into the mix. We haven't had an abundance of overtakes as we perhaps maybe foretold at the start, but still has been an interesting race. We've seen Scarron back onto his winning form, taken or maybe yet to take another win. Don't want to jinx it just yet. Another win of what has been a pretty good season for him, and he'll be extending his championship lead. And Prosciutto needs to be on it for the next 3 races if he wants any chance, because at the moment it's a 14-point gap, and that's going to be extended today. So Prosciutto's got 3 rounds. He needs Scarron to be behind him for the rest of them.
Just 1 lap to go for Scarron. Still looking good. Nothing to worry about for him. Like you said, the race maybe didn't have that much battles, but the ones that we've seen were quite exciting. Bit of contact here and there as well. People spun around. Quite a few DNFs. Indeed as well, about 6, 7. So always a bit unfortunate to see, of course, but it happens. Track like Spa, of course, is one of those tracks where there's not a lot of room for mistakes. Some places you can get away with them more easily than others, but the barriers aren't too far away either, so if you spin into them, then it's easy to lose a front or a rear wing, or maybe even a tire. So DNFs are bound to happen then. However, Scarron coming through to the final sector of this race and about to take home his next Grand Prix win here in the Academy Series.
Yeah, has obviously missed round 1, but since then has been on an absolute mission as Damien Scarron. He's just been unchallenged. No one has really been able to match him when he's been on it, such as today and a few weeks ago. France, of course, was a bit of a dip in confidence, but he's back on winning form, comes across the line to take the checkered flag here in Spa. And, well, he was just completely unchallenged today. Consistent, flawless throughout. Prosciutto comes across the line in P2, of course, started around about P3 or so. So a position gain. Rainey is not going to be complaining at all with another podium. 2 podiums in a row and a good way to start his venture with a new team. Nizio comes across the line at P4, and a few seconds later, Luchak did gain quite a bit on those last couple of laps, but not quite enough to get himself into the top 4, and it's going to be a top 5 for him. Certainly an interesting race. Kevin Morville is taking Thomas to the line, but I don't quite think it's going to be enough. Just going to run out of time as they cross the line in 7th. and 8th, Marashak and Harry Smith a few seconds later. It's been a pretty poor race for Harry Smith. He's managed to recover himself into the top 10, but I think that first lap, or first-ish lap, very early on in the race, where he, of course, rejoined the track, hit the car and went into the wall, just, couldn't settle back into the race from there, but definitely a good comeback drive to at least get into the top 10. Harry Smith had some good pace, though, so, it's unfortunate to see him down in P10, but Scouron, Prosciutto and Rennie, your top 3 today.
Yeah, great race from them, and like you said, Harry Smith, after that incident in the first lap, not able to recover at least further than top 10. I think he can still be happy with that. Could have been even worse if he wasn't able to get to the end of the race after that incident. Still gets a few points out of it today, so he can be happy with that. Now let's quickly have a look at the final race results. Yeah, go ahead.
So it is Scouron that takes the victory. Prosciutto in P2, very much unable to challenge Scouron today. Adam Rainey in P3, Nizio in P4, with Luchak rounding off the top 5. Pretty quiet race from him, but done his job and brought it home. Vagapov P6 with Thomas Andriami Ariosoa in P7, Morville in P8 with Marachak and Harry Smith rounding off the top 10, with only around about 12 finishers or so. Being in the top 10, definitely a good result, and a good result for Harry Smith to have brought it home into the top 10 as well, and just another win for Scouron as well. Back on winning form, really did dominate. Tommy Yelatau in P11 with Raboli P12 and Patrick Rusinak in P13, and the rest, didn't finish, and that is 7 DNFs today. It's quite a few.
Yeah, it is quite a few indeed. Let's have a quick look as well on the standings provisional, of course. Pending post-race checks, Scouron gains another 5 points on Prosciutto. Then who, of course, in turn gains quite a big margin on Harry Smith as well. Smith, I don't think will be able to challenge Prosciutto much more for that for the position, unless Prosciutto has a really bad end of the season. Then further down, Hamming, Mocerino, Pignataro all not racing here today. So Adam Brady gaining quite a bit of points here. Another 3rd position for him means another 17 points. So great job by him once again. Batala not getting any points. Brantham not getting any points. And Riboli getting just a few points to get himself up to 10th position here in the standings.
Yeah, if Rainey hooks up the last couple of rounds of this season, he could be looking very good. The Japanese Grand Prix in just 2 weeks' time on the 25th of July to bring us around number 10 and to enter us into the closing stages of what has been a very enthralling and entertaining season. Can Damien Scouron extend the lead? Can Prosciutto finally challenge him? And where will Adam Rainey sit on his charge up the standings? Definitely going to be a very interesting one. Only 3 rounds left of the season. Scouron, 19 points in the championship, and he leads the way. But can Prosciutto challenge him?
That is the big question indeed, and we're going to have to wait and see what happens in those last 3 races. Like you say, Japanese Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. First, though, we've got the Pro Championship later today in just about 30 minutes time. Qualifying will start for that, so make sure you don't miss anything for that. We've got Aidan Millward and Alex Skinner on commentary for that, and normally we would say the World Championship after that as well, but that's not the case today, of course, because of the Euro 2020 finals happening at the same time. We've decided to move the World Championship race to next week. So we've just got the World Championship race coming as well next week at Spa-Francorchamps as well, just to not have that clash with the final tonight, which is going on at the exact same time as the race would be. So I hope to see you all in 1 week time, in 30 minutes time for the Pro Championship, and of course for the Academy Championship as well in 2 weeks time.